Greetings and welcome to Youth Activism Day here on Live from Earth. I'm Emilio and I'm one of the founders of Live from Earth and also the founder of Portal, the technology platform the program is running on this week. Today, we'll be hearing profound talks and insights from global youth rising up to today's environmental challenges. We look forward to messages from young people working with the programs of the Sunrise Movement, the Climate Initiative, and more. While the Climate Initiative is striving to inspire 10 million youth to become climate activists, we realize that in order to rise to meet the climate challenge before us, people of all generations must also have a hand in the transformation. As our sponsor and major Live from Earth event donors, Rugged Elegance Foundation state here in their 2-minute Climate Challenge Manifesto. Enjoy the video, and once again, thank you for joining us for Live from Earth.
We find ourselves
at a unique moment in history.
The rallying cry of so many is,
save the earth. But the reality is
that no matter what we do to our home planet,
it will regenerate itself.
It may take a few million years,
but the earth will heal itself.
The real challenge facing us is this.
Can we save ourselves from ourselves?
We're not talking about a pandemic or a nuclear annihilation.
We are talking about the slow, grinding work of our economies,
Emitting gigatons of carbon dioxide into our atmosphere
in support of growth and progress.
But to what end?
Yes, this challenge is so large and so daunting
that the initial response is to acquiesce to its gigantic nature.
We want to simply ignore it and hope that someone else can find the answers at some point in the future.
But somewhere deep in all of us is a murmur that says,
yes, but what if?
What if we, the generations currently occupying this planet,
began to embrace this as a challenge that we can rise to meet,
so that our kids,
Our grandkids,
and our great-grandkids
could look at us with pride and say,
they did it. They did it.
We believe that first and foremost, the climate challenge is spiritual in nature.
we have somehow convinced ourselves that we are separate from nature and that this planet is so vast
That whatever we do as humans couldn't possibly have an impact. Science tells us otherwise. We need to give ourselves a roadmap to understand the spiritual nature of the climate challenge that we face.
As we begin to learn, we can begin to heal our spiritual beliefs.
And that will allow us to begin to heal our relationship with our planet
And ourselves.
The Climate Initiative is really about empowering youth voices for climate action. And we do it in a way that is nonpartisan. We're a nonprofit organization that really is about taking high school youth, college youth, and taking the education of climate science through empowerment to action. Action in local communities, action across the United States, and eventually across the globe.
We understand the real importance of localizing a global problem because the solutions come from those grassroots movements. This idea of acting locally and inspiring local action through youth voices is something that can be in any community. Having youth study what's happening in their local landscape and then communicate that out to the community at large, and then create action projects and suggest actions that the community should take.
It went from the youth, the kids, to the families, to the communities, and then clearly oriented to decision makers. In my opinion, it's the biggest problem the world has ever seen.
The clock is ticking, and the time is now for your community to have meaningful conversations that lead to climate action.
The population of young people in the world is massive. All of us working together have a lot of energy, a lot of drive, ensuring that the planet for our generation and future generations is still intact. Yes, I think that youth are able to come together and work together to enact solutions to mitigate climate change.
We've been thinking systematically about a way we can structure our staff and decentralize our staff to represent the communities in which they're serving so that youth in Idaho, in Oregon, in California all have a localized climate initiative contact so that they know who to contact when they have an idea that they want to take action.
It's been really great to be a part of the California work, and a lot of my focus to date has been on policy and the policy side of things and what pieces of climate change policy, do we want to help students learn about and get engaged in, especially at the local level.
We have people supporting us who are at the tops of their fields. They're world-renowned scientists, philanthropists, entrepreneurs, you name it. And they have come to us in just our first year of operation to say, we are behind you. And I don't know of any other organization that I've heard of that has made this tremendous growth in such a short amount of time.
At the Climate Initiative, we really do feel everybody has a seat at the climate table. That's really the only way that we're going to solve the global climate crisis. Hello, Live from Earth viewers. I'm Jono Anzalone, the Executive Director of the Climate Initiative. Thank you all for tuning in and supporting all the amazing and inspiring organizations and individuals behind those organizations that have really went into this week-long event. From our team here at the Climate Initiative, every single day we're working towards our mission of empowering youth voices for climate action. This includes the work that we do across the country with our regional coordinators and working with young people ages 13 to 23, as well as educators to really move from education to activation and empowerment of youth voices. Today's Live from Earth focus is on young solution makers who are innovating towards a healthy climate future and highlighting the current climate and ecological challenges through the eyes and voices of youth. We see this every day at the Climate Initiative. Every time we open a new message or see an action project in a community, we see young people's passion and hope that I'll come back to in just a moment. One theme that you're going to see interwoven throughout the work that TCI does and the videos that you are seeing at today's event is hope. And we hope that today you'll see the powerful youth voices that bring hope to the forefront of the fight for climate action, now more than ever before. The best antidote for despair is action. And I want to share with you a quote from a young leader who just attended our second annual Collegiate Climate Policy Institute in Washington, D.C. several weeks ago. And this quote really captures this idea of hope. This individual said that the Climate Initiative has inspired me to show others that there is hope. The feeling of anxiousness and looking towards the future can be understood as being aware of your personal capability to take action. Anxiety is not stillness, but it's just as uncomfortable as a form of momentum that is necessary to progress. I want to help others to realize that this potential lies in every giant that seems unbeatable, inside and outside of climate action. And this change in mindset will be the vehicle for us to both enact and experience evolution that we would like to occur within our work for climate change. Wow. If that's not hope, I don't know what is. And we hope that you'll join us at the Climate Initiative by taking action today with our custom Live from Earth Action widget. And I want to thank you for your time and commitment towards a better future for all of us. Enjoy the rest of today's events.
Hi, my name is Christian. I'm a policy fellow working with the Climate Initiative. And one reason why I'm optimistic about our climate future is seeing how we can use state and local policies to really enact the change that we see necessary while also accommodating the needs of the community. And that's, one of the most important things we can do is use local and state governments to enact policies that put forth common sense climate solutions while also keeping in mind the best interests of communities and the issues that these communities are facing on the ground.
Hello, my name is Sophia and I'm the Florida Coordinator Fellow at TCI. And something that gives me climate hope is definitely just taking the time to be in community, meet new people, go to events, and learn different skills and new skills to help support my environment every day. I especially love just going to events like these, and I recently went to one where it was a beeswax candle making workshop, and I made this candle, and you can see like I already started to melt it. And this was such a wonderful experience because I was able to not only make these beeswax candles, but also go and tour hives from a local beekeeper, you know, see the process of maintaining bees and making sure that they're happy and healthy and thriving. And part of that means making sure they have room to grow and create new comb and create new beehives. And that means we need to take some of this comb and turn it into beautiful candles. So I love learning new skills like this and just continuing to grow in my knowledge about my local ecosystem in my backyard and how different things I can do every day can continue to support it. Thank you.
I've always cared about climate change, but I never thought I could make it this far. It feels like a really big accomplishment for me. I've met, leaders that are working the legislative and, a lot of people from all across the country, across the world, actually. And I've learned a lot so far for things that I want to implement in my life and in my business and the things that I do for myself and for my family. And I'm really grateful for this opportunity, and I can't thank everybody and you guys for everything. And yeah, I can take a lot of things home, tell my dad, my nephews that think they're on the same shoes as me. So I'm pretty glad about that. And what gives me hope is this. I never thought a lot of people have this in common, that we all want to fight towards climate change and better our future. And I never thought that, a lot of people my age, and this is just like a couple of the people that are all across the entire world. So, hopefully I can be able to meet everyone here, in a personal level. I think I've tried my best to, to communicate with everybody, but this is just the beginning, I hope. But not I hope. This is just the beginning. I know there's more to come, and I want to be a part of it forever.
Honestly, what really gives me hope is the idea that just being here with these young people, I'm putting myself in a space where I know really less than anybody else, because I'm really a junior, and some of them have really already taken steps to really try to implement their project. So I'm really hopeful, like after this, I will really have the courage to really do something for my community, PKFC. Yeah.
It's so important to empower people to get involved in a movement, and the way that traditional media has been telling the story for the last 20 years has been doing exactly the opposite and making people feel like they have no place in this movement and there is no hope. So creating a space where people can, feel the urgency of the climate crisis, but also hear it in a way that's not going to make them terrified and feel like there's nothing they can do. And what I'm learning here at CCPI is kind of how to put my passion into a more concrete change. I've kind of always focused on telling stories and that kind of thing, and I'm learning a lot more about policy and how I can make actual, physical, concrete change, which is super cool and important and fun to learn.
As a person from Guam, we often don't have a lot of opportunities to connect with our peers of our own age group. We're often really just confined to our own little island, and not to say there's anything wrong with that, but it does create a sense of distance between us and other members of the nation. And not only were the CCPI other members of my own age group, they were other members of my age group who are actively involved in the climate change advocacy space. And it was amazing. Climate change can make you really feel hopeless because it's an existential threat. Our islands are sinking, it's causing mass out-migration, it's causing weather effects to be worsened. It can really be suffocatingly hopeless, it can really be so fatalistic. And here at the CCPI, getting to talk to these peers who have also experienced that hopelessness, but also really want to make things better. We were able to cultivate a sense of optimism and hope. It's through interactions like that that I find hope. It's by not just staying in my own little bubble and trying to convince myself that things are going well. It's by meeting with others and putting out the hope that I want to receive in return. It's by that collaboration. It's by that community. That's what gives me hope.
what gives me hope. I think being surrounded with other peers who are doing amazing work, being in a space like this, really reminds me that if there's this many of us who want change, there's really no stopping us. This is a momentum that's just going to build and grow, and I'm so excited for it and to be part of it.
I come from a rural community. It's Gallup, New Mexico. It's very rural, near the Four Corners area. And my mom still lives there. And my sister was living there recently, but she moved out for college. And I just want a better future for my community.
And what gives me hope? Basically, it's like there are a lot of people who has the same passion like me, not only related to the space industry, but also related to the environmental science, how many actions someone can take, not only now, but in the future. And they can be leaders, not only in their communities, but in their colleges, or you can support the young generation, like the kids, that they can get all the amazing knowledge from us. So I'm very grateful, super, super grateful for this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to see you all in the future.
Awesome. Hello, my name is Mahashri, and I'm an ambassador here at the Climate Initiative. So one thing that gives me climate hope is the role of youth and our potential to tackle every and any challenge in this world. And I genuinely feel like climate change is one of them. Youngsters have been quick to respond and acknowledge the climatic situation, and we have stood at the forefront. Furthermore, supporting us, we have STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and I feel like STEM has played the role of a major catalyst throughout. Without STEM, it would have been impossible to come up with the renewable energy sources and many other innovative solutions. For example, solar panels for solar energy or wind turbines for wind energy, all of these would have ceased to exist if we did not utilize STEM properly. I would also like to emphasize the role of global efforts taken by many countries throughout the world. We've all come together regardless of our boundaries and differences to support, evolve, and grow together for a better future. Our world has come up with unique solutions to maximize involvement of the global population, all the way from beach cleanups to sustainable fashion. Many individuals have also gone out their own ways to support climate action by planting trees or switching to renewable energy resources, or even reducing their carbon footprint. Many environmental organizations have taken it in their own hands to spread awareness through climate and environmental literacy. And if so much can be done in the present, don't you think more could be done in the future? I am certainly very hopeful.
Honestly, youth climate activists, like we are doing the work, and it gives me so much hope to meet everyone that I've met this week.
So the capacity of young people to create youth-led social change through innovation, creativity, and critical thinking, regardless of the support of the ecosystem.
What gives me hope is when First Nations from across the world get together and unite and fight for the future of our world.
What gives me hope is the people, all of the people, because this is a people's movement and we are part of Mother Earth.
Well, what gives me hope is just seeing all the young people out here. And it's like growing up, learning to care about the planet and like activating on their own. So it's whether like we're talking about, bringing together and coming down on carbon emissions, talking about protecting like the earth and conserving the land that we come from. The fact that they're going to grow up this way and be the next generation of leaders. So that gives me hope for my future and for my kids' future.
What gives me hope is seeing young people from across the world, including from the Pacific Islands, pushing their leaders to fight vigorously and hard on the issues of climate change and how it's impacting their environment, and also urging their leaders to continue the fight to sustain our environment for generations to come.
I think today's youth, climate change is a really big issue, and more people are becoming aware of it and want to take action about it. Seeing thousands of volunteers that want to take action against climate change and make a difference is just really inspiring, and it gives me hope that we'll be able to make it through this and solve climate change.
What gives me hope is seeing wonderful young activists out here taking action. And if we all learn from the young people and they lead the way and we all work together, we really can turn this around. We really have the ability to.
What gives me hope is the creativity and innovation from young people. They're coming up with new projects and ideas to tell climate stories that will really inspire people to take action in their communities.
What gives me hope is the power of love. And oftentimes we tend to focus on the people who are causing harm in the world. But what gives me hope is the millions and millions and even billions of people causing ripples of love in the world. Oftentimes we tend to forget how beautiful human beings are and how loving they are. And I believe that we will heal the world because of love and our ability to love each other and love the world.
To support youth voices on their journey to become climate leaders is to inspire a movement with the power to change the world. Our planet is in peril. Rising tides and temperatures, dangerous storms, and disappearing ecosystems. A small coastal town in Maine was witnessing this firsthand, so we turned to our local youth.
And we showed up.
In just 1 year, the Climate Initiative has gone from grassroots to global.
Educating, empowering, and activating students from coast to coast.
Supported by passionate educators, adult allies, climate experts, and philanthropists, TCI is elevating our generation's voice for the most important issue in our lifetime.
We're here, hopeful, and hungry for change.
Join us and learn more.
Add your voice and speak up.
Take action and create solutions.
Because what we stand to lose is staring us squarely in the face. And we are the movement staring back.
We are TCI!
Welcome back to Live from Earth. I'm your host, Becca Dakini. I'd like to introduce our next guest, Josiah Edwards. Josiah is a youth climate organizer with Sunrise Movement. He is the spokesperson of Sunrise Movement Los Angeles and guided the hub over the course of the pandemic, working to build lasting partnerships with aligned organizations in the greater LA region and throughout California, including People's Budget LA and Vision. Thanks for joining us, Josiah.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, where are you calling in from today?
Right now, I'm calling in from Washington, D.C., which is occupied Piscataway territory.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm excited to have this conversation with you and learn about what you've been up to in the world. I'm wondering, is there a defining moment that put you on this pathway as a climate activist?
Well, usually what I tell people is that I was on my way to community college, and all they say about community college is not a lot of community in it. And Sunrise was on the rise during that particular moment, having occupied the office of Nancy Pelosi, who had just become Speaker of the House, and was on a shooting star trajectory in terms of emphasizing the importance of the Green New Deal. And when I saw that, I was like, this is a movement that is speaking directly to my needs as a young Black person who grew up experiencing environmental racism. So this is where I found myself, and this is where I put my energy, effort, and time.
Thanks, Josiah. You're an organizer of Sunrise Movement now in LA. Could you tell me about the work Sunrise Movement is doing in the world?
Of course, of course. Sunrise Movement just went through a major transition after organizing and putting so much time, effort, and energy into fighting for Build Back Better and a civilian climate corps, a fully funded civilian climate corps. We that it was time to invest more deeply in our local organizing in order to build a multiracial, cross-class base of young people who are capable of affecting change in their own communities, winning local Green New Deals that would eventually add up to the possibility of winning a Green New Deal on a federal level. And so that shift has occurred in two particular ways. We're doing two new programs called the Green New Deal for Communities and the Green New Deal for Schools. And what's really exciting about the last one is there's going to be a summer camp coming up around August And we're going to bring young people from across the country together in high school so that they can train and learn how to organize their own schools to transform their schools, and then thereby, after transforming their schools, the larger communities around them, creating the foundation for some really powerful organizing over the course of the next couple of years.
Fabulous. And where is Sunrise Movement based, and where are you working in the world right now?
Sure. So Sunrise Movement is particularly based in the United States. We're working all across the country. We have over 100 basically local chapters that are doing phenomenal work. In fact, some of the recent work, and I'll speak about a little more about this later, happening in El Paso. They're actually organizing to win a climate charter for their city, which would ensure that the city has a responsibility to transition to renewable energy, writing it into law and giving it the teeth of law, which is a major step towards winning a Green New Deal for El Paso, and of course, laying the foundation for larger work in Texas writ large.
Amazing. Yeah, for everybody out there that's watching, please go and check out Sunrise Movement and all the amazing work they're continuing to do and expanding constantly. It's unbelievable actually watching the constant growth and development of this organization and the impact it's having. So really excited about what you're up to. So environmental justice is the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people regardless of race, color, national origin, and income in all environmental decisions and policies. Environmental racism is a form of institutional racism leading to landfills, incinerators, and hazardous waste disposal being disproportionately placed in communities of color. Internationally, it's also associated with extractivism, which places the environmental burdens of mining, oil extraction, and industrial agriculture upon Indigenous peoples and poorer nations largely inhabited by people of color. Around the world and in the USA, many communities of color are subjected to environmental racism every day and are fighting for environmental and climate justice. Josiah, what are your thoughts on this crucial issue affecting BIPOC communities in the USA and around the world today?
Sure. When I think about the issue of environmental justice, I think about my home. I grew up with childhood asthma. My father and little brother have chronic asthma. And we were always put at risk by the nature of just the zip code that we had, right? We lived near the largest refinery on the West Coast, and it impacted our lives daily. And we were lucky, my mother was able to provide healthcare for the entire family through the job that she had for most of the time that I was in high school. And, we were able to, in some ways, put the direct confrontation of environmental injustice by the wayside, because our family was focusing on other things like simply keeping a roof over our heads or making sure that the car didn't break down so that we could get to school, right? So we didn't really have the ability to deal with the issues that was impacting our health daily. I used to have to take breathing treatments utilizing the nebulizer that stayed directly next to my bed in between my brother and I. And it impacted my life daily, regularly. So when I think about the issue of environmental justice, it really is about the world that I'm trying to build so that I didn't have to experience that. My little brother didn't have to experience that. My father didn't have to experience that. That my family didn't have to experience that. That my community didn't have to experience that. That we would live in a world where such extractive institutions like refineries or metal recycling plants that dismantle World War II era bombs in Watts, or the uncapped oil fields that are riddled throughout Los Angeles that are causing so many forms of health impacts to everyday working class Black and brown folks. That we don't have to live in a world where our lifespans are cut short simply by the nature of our zip code. A world where all people can thrive. So when I think about environmental justice, I think about building a world that gets rid of extractive institutions, that makes it so that we have the opportunity to simply live.
Thank you, Josiah. We're a very strange species, are we not?
Yeah.
We really are. The way we treat each other needs to be deeply evaluated. What are some of the core messages that you think the world needs to hear from the youth climate movement today?
One thing I would do a little bit of reframing is that I think the world has heard more than enough from the youth climate movement. I think that they've heard that we are fighting for a world where we can live. We're fighting for our futures, fighting for our lives. And I think it's now time, it's long past time for everybody to stop relying on young people to save the planet, right? Like, this is not something we want to spend our lives doing. This is not something that we, should have to be doing. And yet many of us, especially those of us who are poor, working class, low income, who are Black and brown, who have no other option except to take on this fight, right? We don't want to have to do that. And yet we are, because we know that, frankly, it's a world worth fighting for. And secondly, that we deserve better. And so what I want people to hear is that young people are beyond being fed up. We're done. And we're no longer waiting for people to, change the world for us. Sunrise, in our previous iteration, we used to do a lot of things like, telling people that our representatives to step up or step aside, to, fight for us. But we're no longer asking them to do that. For all the real truth of the matter is that for all the good that speaking truth to power does, all that really does is leave us tired after talking and talking and talking, and the people in power still with the power. And so we're fed up with it. And now we're just going to take it for ourselves. We're going to build the world that we want to see, the one we want to live in, where everybody has everything they need to live sufficiently, to thrive, to dream, to be able to build families and build their lives, to build relationships and be in relationship with one another and right relationship. We're no longer waiting for the people in power to act on our behalf. We are organizing, and this is why we're taking the effort to organize our schools and our communities at a local level, because it's time for us to build the world that we want to see so much. A world where the Green New Deal is no longer just a phrase that comes out of our lips, but is acted out every single day, where we can, just interact with one another in happiness. And we're going to continue to keep organizing until we win that world as surely as the sun rises.
Beautiful. I'm wondering how those that aren't climate youth activists can best support those that are doing this work. How can we resource you with this important work you're doing in the world?
Well, one thing I want to name is that, and this might be a little wonky, but there's a difference between what it means to organize, what it means to mobilize, and what it means to participate in advocacy. And what Sunrise is trying to do is organize. And right now, a lot of organizing work isn't actually being supported. And what we need is like substantive support in order to do that. So for those of you who are of means, please, 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 put your money where your mouth is, and invest in the possibility of young people building the future that I just described. If you actually believe that we need a world where, those who are of lower income are not suffering by the nature of the jobs they hold, that those who are Black and brown are not suffering by the nature of the zip codes they live in, that trans kids, right, are not suffering and being completely just, attacked simply for nothing they've ever done, right? Then put your money where your mouth is and invest in our futures, invest in our lives, put it towards movements and organizations like Sunrise who are doing the work to transform our communities and meet people where they're at. The other thing I would add is that, listen, the truth of the matter is we're young. That doesn't mean we don't have the capacity or the ability to understand the world we live in. We very much do. But we do live in a world where there are restrictions on our ability to do much of anything on the basis of our age. And so we need the support of our adult allies to really step up and, provide spaces for us and, to represent us where we cannot, right? So I would also add that if you can find any shape, form, or way of offering support to our organizers on the ground, then please do. We have a map of every hub in the country that organizes under Sunrise. You can find that and just reach out to them and ask how you can help them, whether that's donating money or offering your time to contribute or finding a space where folks can meet. Anything that you can do to make it better so that we can build stronger community and organize together to build the world that we know we all need is something that will transform everything for us.
Got it. Thanks, Josiah. And then what about young people watching this broadcast that would like to get involved with the youth climate movement or want to know how they can make a difference in their own lives? What would you say to them? How can they plug in?
I think I would just say to young people who are, actually whether or not they're looking to get involved in the youth climate justice movement in particular, all I would say is that you have the capacity to take ownership over your own life, regardless of the structures and systems that exist in and around us, right? That you have the capacity to take ownership over your life and affect change where you are, right? One of my favorite, favorite's not even the word, my spiritual ancestor, movement ancestor, Ella Baker. She says, she's often quoted as saying two things: strong people don't need strong leaders, and give people light and they will find a way. People are capable of affecting change where they're at. Usually it's just a matter of recognizing that we can do so. And once that has changed, once our expectations are raised, then we start to believe that anything is possible because you believe in yourself and your family and your friends and your broader community, and you rely on them and support each other to affect change in the place, to build the world that you hope to see. So to young people who are looking to get involved in the climate justice movement, young people more broadly, to anybody really who believes that they're just not able to do much of anything in their lives because everything is just really, there's no other ways to put it, really shit. Just know that there are other people there, like me, like my friends and family, who are working every day to change the world we exist in, but we can't do it alone. And if you feel any degree of discomfort, fear, trepidation about the way the world is today, if you're scared, I recognize what that's like. I feel you. But the thing that made it possible for me to get involved in this work in the first place, to feel hope in dark times like these, is the belief, the fundamental belief of enacting possibility and doing so with the people I love most. Latch onto that, and that's how you'll be able to change the world.
Amazing, Josiah. On that note, around hope and the future world that we hope is possible, if you could flip forward to 2040 and vision with me, and I'm talking best case scenario. Let's say that things have changed systemically, okay? Best case scenario. If you could paint the world or create the world as you want it to be, what would it look like in 2040 if you could give me that future vision? What's changed? How have we improved things? I know it's a little bit of a dream, but I think we need to dream. And so I'm just curious, what is your ideal version of a future world in 2040?
When people often ask me to, dream of what the world looks like in terms of visioning, I think especially in particular as it relates to me, they're often like, get specific, right? Universal public transit, we all have healthcare, we can provide for, and there's specific policy orientations. But honestly, that's not what does it for me. With the clear and present danger and threat of fascism, not just in the United States, but all over the world, it's oftentimes difficult to see beyond that, right? And I would just say that the thing that keeps me moving, as I said before, is my friends, my family, the people I organize with, whom I love, and the community that I have with them. I think what I want the world to look like in 2040, actually what I know I want the world to look like in 2040, is the world that's reflected in my community, with the people I love, right? One where relationships are reciprocal and we believe in the interconnectedness of one another, where we embrace community, where you actually know the names of your neighbors, right? Where if you're struggling to handle something like, pick up the kids from school, that all you have to do is call one of the neighbors down the street and they got you. That, one of the worlds where my grandmother, who's always watching to make sure everything's good, the world where my Black grandmother who takes on that role, where people actually recognize that and believe in supporting and embracing the leadership that shows up in all of its forms. Whether that's my grandmother keeping watch over the kids of the neighborhood, or the kid that steps up to support his friend. That's really the world I want to build. And so in 2040, I just see a much more loving, kind world where we are actually embracing a politics of love, where we are embracing what it means to be human and understand that we mess up sometimes, but at the end of the day, it's about the community we build with one another and those we love. So that's the world I want to build in 2040. And in order to get there, I just want to name, it's going to take a lot of people willing to actually name that they want power and that they're going to need power in order to get there. So I'll just add that addendum just to be clear.
Just to be clear. Well, I'm just going to say that again, a loving, kind world where we are embracing politics of love. That's a beautiful quote, Josiah. I hold that vision with you. May it be so. So we're coming to the end of our time today. I'm wondering if there's any major campaigns, issues, or projects that you would like people to know about.
Absolutely. The first thing I want to do is shout out the organizers, Sunrise organizers in El Paso, Texas, who have been organizing around something called Proposition K, which is going to, let me see if I can get this right, establish a goal requiring the city of El Paso to use energy that is sourced from renewables. And I believe the goal is to have it 80% by 2030. And so moving toward an energy grid system that is based on renewable energy is no longer focused on carbon emissions. Now, there's been a lot of scapegoating in this campaign. I actually just spoke to one of the El Paso organizers last week, and there are, all forms of special interest coming out to prevent this charter from passing. But if it passed, it would lay the groundwork for a Green New Deal, not just in El Paso, but for Texas writ large. And we all remember what happened in Texas during that winter freeze when people froze to death and suffered as a consequence, right? And so it is imperative that the work that happens in El Paso succeeds, because it will lay the foundation for success in changing Texas writ large into a place that can and will pass a Green New Deal. So I want to shout out the El Paso organizers, and the work they're doing on the climate charter. I believe the election is in May. Let's see if I can get the number right. May 5th, May 6th. And so shout out to them. Encourage everybody to go to their Instagram page, all of their social media really, but their Instagram page in particular, and donate to support them. It's a tough campaign, but they're really, really putting in the work to make this happen.
Great. And where can people go online? Is there a URL they could go to find out about Sunrise Movement and also about your work?
Of course. I mean, the simple thing is you can go to sunrisemovement.org. That's where you'll find all the information about us. You'll see the campaign happening with El Paso there. I think there's also a phone banking link that you can go to help make phone calls and get people out to vote. We're calling voters around the country, or calling voters all around El Paso every single Wednesday until the 6th of May. We only got a couple more weeks to the run up of that. So go to sunrisemovement.org to find that. And it will be, we'd love to have your help. If you're not in El Paso, that's definitely a way you can plug in and help out.
Thanks, Josiah. So any final words for our viewers today?
All I have to say is that We're not in this work for the possibility of, some celebrity status. We're not in this work because, some people will get paid for it. We're not in this work because it helps us look good or even out of the goodness of our heart. The reason I'm in this work, and I'll just speak for myself here, is because my community is impacted. I'm in this work because it is within my self-interest to be in this work, to organize, to transform the systems that I exist in, that my family exists in, that my community exists in, so that they are life-supporting, life-giving, life-affirming, and not death-dealing, not extractive. And so that's why I organize. And I'm going to continue to fight. Angela Davis says that freedom is a constant struggle, right? And it is. And I'm going to keep struggling until I win, right? Because I want that better world for my community, one where they don't have to worry about, basic needs like having a roof over our heads or being able to take care of our families when somebody gets sick. I want a world where all of us can just live supported and knowing that we can enjoy life and be ambitious in enjoying our lives. As I said before, the reason I joined Sunrise isn't because, just out of the goodness. I joined Sunrise because I needed to. Because to organize for the future that I want, to win the future that I want, I've got to organize. I've got to build and win power. And so that's the mission of my life. And that's the mission of every single leader in Sunrise Movement. To organize, to fight, to build, so that we can win power to transform the world. And we're going to keep doing that. Each and every day that we wake up, thinking about how it is that we can build power, how it is that we can win, until we win, as surely as the sun rises.
As surely as the sun rises. Josiah, thank you for the amazing work that you're doing, the Sunrise Movement is doing, and all climate activists, or youth activists, I guess, around the world. We wouldn't be able to actually make it through to where we need to go without you. So full power to you, and thank you for everything you're doing. And thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Are you a health and wellness expert who's passionate about making the world a healthier place? Introducing Elixir, the ultimate social platform designed specifically for experts like you to share their knowledge, build a supportive community, and grow your business. With Elixir, you have the power to create personalized content, allowing you to turn your followers into loyal subscribers. For a limited time, signing up to Elixir is absolutely free at getelixir.com.
So we're going to delve into our call now. And I woke up this morning, just feeling and remembering so vividly a story of why we actually started Sunrise. And in 2015, I had just graduated college. And I remember Bernie Sanders was running his campaign for president of the United States of America. And I was a fossil fuel divestment campaigner at the time. And even though I was so deeply involved in climate work, for those of you who were active and engaged in politics at this time, it sort of felt like being in the climate movement, we were watching the entire presidential campaign through like a glass wall. Like Bernie was out there going in on the fossil fuel industry, calling climate change the greatest existential threat of our lives. But our movement was like not at all set up to help him win and ensure that climate justice was central to our country's politics. And we weren't set up to stop the most dangerous president in the United States history as well. And I remember all I wanted in that moment was to have the ability for myself and for the hundreds of thousands, for the millions of young people around the country who felt the weight of this crisis, to see our politicians act with the same urgency and the same fear and be motivated by the hope that we felt. And I wanted the issues that mattered most to my generation to be front and center in our national conversation. And I know this is not unique to me, like the pain of feeling literally gaslit again and again and again by the knowledge that we were nearing ecological and humanitarian breakdown and our leaders weren't seeing it. But you know what, like in that moment, we were clear together that if we could bring the energy of a youth climate movement into the streets and into the halls of Congress with people like Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, we could totally win. And we believe that if we put out a vision for that better world, that young people together could assemble a movement that could take on the powerful and the wealthy and follow in the footsteps of all great movements to turn what was politically unthinkable and impossible into the politically inevitable. And yesterday, I like actually felt like the movement we have built together, that we have truly made climate action rooted in racial equity and economic prosperity a priority in our politics. Yesterday was a huge movement victory. And I know there's a lot to be done, but we can take a second and just bask in the glory of that because we deserve it. We busted our asses for that. And here's just a bit of what we won, right? We fought and won. Many of these things were not in Biden's policy a year ago, okay? So we won 40% of investments, all federal investments that are made in by the federal government, that 40% of that will go to frontline communities, communities of color and low-income people and tribal nations. We secured a civilian climate corps that is going to employ young people and people of color to do the critical work of averting climate catastrophe. We said that we wanted an office of climate mobilization that could unify and cohere and organize the federal government for a plan for climate action across all federal agencies. We got that. We have an Office of Domestic Climate Policy and a National Climate Task Force that is going to do exactly that, headed up by Gina McCarthy and Ali Zaidi. We have the creation of an Environmental Justice Advisory Committee. We have made sure that the government, which buys billions, hundreds of billions of dollars worth of stuff, that every contract that they make is going to seek to improve labor standards for workers and ensure that they have clean energy standards as well. So this is huge. We are gonna make sure that the power sector, that transportation, that buildings, all of that is actually going to reduce carbon emissions. And so this is just like, if you had told me in 2015 that I would be on this call with hundreds of you and that one of the most badass members of Congress would be here celebrating these victories and talking about where we go next, I would have been like, I hope, but I'm not sure. And I don't know if I would have believed you, but here we are. But you know what, like when stuff was coming out yesterday too, it didn't entirely feel like out of the ordinary, right? This is happening not because Biden woke up one day and was like, I'm gonna be the FDR of this moment. Like, hell no. Like we and so many of our allies and our partners, like we have worked collectively to change the political weather in this country. And that is what you and all of us did. We built a movement. We agitated, we organized, we bird dogged. We were literally a pain in the ass for every single one of these folks coming through every state. I know you were out there asking about the money that they took from the fossil fuel industry, asking what their plan was to stop the climate crisis. We joined ranks with Bernie Sanders and pushed for Bernie Sanders to become president of the United States and the Democratic nominee. But when that didn't happen, we didn't skip a beat. We were out there sounding the alarm to Joe Biden to say young people aren't with you right now, and you need to improve your climate plan. You need to pursue justice at every turn to make sure that that we have a planet and a future for all these young people. And he invited people like me and AOC to be on his task force, and we worked to improve a lot of that, of his climate plan, and we kept the heat up when he won in November after millions of young people turned out. We made sure that his cabinet was filled with climate champions. And here we are today. You know, we showed up in Georgia and we worked alongside brilliant Black and Brown organizers who have been fighting against voter suppression for such a long time and won the Senate. And now I want everyone to just take a minute and shout out someone in this chat who helped us get to this point, big or small. Whatever it was, making phone calls, planning an action, talking to a neighbor, like whatever you did. Let's see them. Shout out my thank you organizers, Yashvi, Voto Latino, the Baltimore Hub, Sunrise Phone Banks, local hub organizers, postcard makers, the Detroit Action, Georgia Equality. Oh my God, they're coming in so fast, I can't even read them. The Video Network, yes, love the Video Network. My parents who helped write postcards, Sunrise Philly, ACLU, Indigenous organizers, state college organizers. My dad phone banked a lot. Yes, your dad, that's awesome. There's so much. Little brothers, my 80-year-old, I think it's a neighbor who helped make calls, Fire Joel Fridays, social media creators. This is amazing. Indigenous Environmental Network, my abuelitos, my mom who used to be a Republican and then started phone banking for somebody. I'm hoping it was someone we were endorsing. This is awesome, y'all. I'm so, so proud and so grateful to all of you. So this is a huge win, and we also know it's not going to be anywhere near enough. And so the work begins to make sure that this is just step one and day one of the decade of the Green New Deal. And the coming months are going to be our chance to do that, right? Biden and Congress congressional leadership are promising to pass a historic COVID relief, economic recovery legislation, putting climate action at the forefront of that. And our mission is to rally our generation to make sure that they have an undeniable mandate to do that at scale in a way that meets the scope and gravity of this crisis. So we know there are going to be a lot of eyes on the insider game politics. That's how, DC rolls. But our job in these coming months is going to be basically keeping our eyes on the ball and what has worked these past few years, building the movement and shifting the very ground under the feet of politicians in DC. And I believe that we can do it and that we will win. And a lot of time on calls, we spend a lot of time talking about okay, what can you do tomorrow? What can you do this week to help us achieve our goals? And this call is going to be a little bit different. We're going to talk about, we have folks from the political team and our training team to help break down kind of the moment that we're in and share their perspective sort of on what we can expect politically in the upcoming months. And then we're going to finish by sharing what's going to come next for our strategy. And this is one of those messy moments. We don't have it all figured out, but we're in the middle of a process with leaders from across the movement in and outside of Sunrise. And so we're going to talk about the broad strokes of what we're thinking and then talk about how we can all prepare to kick off the campaign in mid-February. So to start us off tonight, I am just humbled and thrilled to introduce the fearless, brilliant Congresswoman from Michigan, Miss Rashida Tlaib, who is going to share her take on what's going on in this country right now and the opportunity we have in the coming months to make history. So let's give some big love to Congresswoman Tlaib.
Hey everyone, I am so happy to be with all of you. Thank you so much for being truth tellers, for just being this incredible movement that just didn't go anywhere. You all really didn't budge, even when those dismissed you all, tried to take away your credibility. You all knew that, again, you had the truth on your side, unlike so many other protesters we've seen in recent weeks and months. But I gotta tell you, we just are getting started. I don't think you all realize just the fact that the door has just now creeped open of the possibility of even more environmental justice initiatives. You all know I represent the beautiful 13th Congressional District in Michigan, where we house the most polluted zip code in the country, 48217, which you all did such a wonderful job during the election season, during the time of highlighting and uplifting this majority Black community that, again, is being completely surrounded by 200 different air permits, corporate polluters. And so thank you for that. And I want you all to understand, like, the fact that we now have this administration talking about environmental justice through a racial justice lens is incredible. And again, that is the opportunity, that door that's creeping open, of making sure that communities like mine that is saying, hey, we know that Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm was always talking about how children could not learn if they were hungry. My community has been telling people, trying through a bullhorn, and you all have been able to elevate their voices through your bullhorn, that children can't learn if they don't have clean air. Children can't learn if they don't have access to clean water. The children can't learn when they're completely being intake of all the pollution and toxicity, with allowing, again, no accountability when it comes to our climate. So thank you for all of that work that you all, again, continue to do. Know this. I know you all are seeing the administration there. Please don't sleep on this. This is just, again, the beginning. What is important to understand, and Grace Lee Boggs in Detroit taught me this, y'all. It isn't who's in the White House. It isn't who's in Congress. It is movement work like this that changes our world and our country. You saw it in the civil rights movement. You saw it in the movement to be able to organize in the workplace. We continue to see this movement around climate crisis, around immigration reform, and so many other injustices in our country. Economic divide that we see even more prevalent during this pandemic is movements like this that continue to be fueled with truth, continue to be fueled with values of understanding that we all deserve to live. We all deserve, no matter our background, we deserve to be seen and heard, and that means clean air, clean water, and to be able to protect our land and our earth. So thank you all so much. On behalf of the 13th District, thank you for giving us hope and being inspired that this is, again, just the beginning. I want to imagine a world with my two boys, my 15-year-old, who literally is constantly talking to me about doing something about the environmental injustices in our community, that we are teaching folks that if we really truly come together from a place of love for our land, love for each other, and understanding we deserve these things. We deserve, again, to be put first before profits for the fossil fuel industry. We deserve to be able to not worry about our children getting asthma or being poisoned with lead, and so many other issues. So thank you again for helping uplift this sense of urgency that was missing in the halls of Congress and with the previous administration. And now, at least, again, you've opened the door by being at the table and demanding environmental justice, and demanding, again, so many of these really important initiatives of not waiting and moving. And so I'm just so happy, and I can't, I hope it's coming off to you to understand that I'm incredibly proud of all of you. As a big sister of the eldest of 14, I want you to know I am so incredibly proud. Thank you for the calls. Thank you again for never giving up on this movement. Oh, and with that, I'm supposed to go to Wally. Wally, thank you. He's coming on board. Wally was about to talk about when the first time we ever met. I'm sure he'll include that in some of his beginning, but thank you. I know from working as an organizer, Wally, this isn't easy work. It can be very defeating sometimes, but I hope you take this moment to really, truly be present and understanding that if not for this movement, if not for the work that you all are doing, we would not have gone this far with the Biden administration. Thank you again so much, everyone. Wally.
Thank you, Congresswoman Tlaib. That was amazing. I feel so inspired. Yes, I will include that. So my name is Wally, he, they pronouns. I'm from the great state of Florida. And the first time I met you was 2018. You came to Gainesville for some random reason at an SJP event. And someone was like, yo, the Congresswoman was going to be here. I was like, nah, stop playing. And you came, and it was so dope. And you're always so inspiring. And thank you so much. Gainesville, Florida. So yes, I'm in the Political and Partnerships Division. Real quick before we go in, let me tell you a story. So a year ago today, I was in Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa, where I live now, working on the caucus Sunrise. We wanted to make the Green New Deal this thing that could not be ignored, right? We wanted it to be on the tongue of every presidential candidate's wish list. We wanted it to be on every platform. And I flew in from Florida, and everybody in the movement house was very concerned about Joe Biden's record. And literally, we followed him across the state because we wanted him to be accountable to the movement. We wanted him to do right by us. And I just remember, being away from home for 6 months in a place that I did not know, doing this work, organizing young people to go caucus for a Green New Deal champion. And, I've never seen snow before. I came to Iowa. It was very cold. And we ended up, making climate change matter. We ended up endorsing Senator Sanders, and we won the caucus. But, we know how that ended up when it came to the Democratic nomination, right? Joe Biden ultimately ended up winning. And I personally thought that that was kind of like the end of the road for us. But a magical thing happened. What happened was, not just me and other people in Iowa were following Joe Biden across the state. Other people across the country were also following Joe Biden across the state, asking him questions about climate policy, showing how concerned they were about their future, and hoping that he would listen to us. And he did, right? We have won so much in the past few days. Someone said it best on a call I was on today. He has done more for climate change in his first few days than Barack Obama has done in 2 terms. And that's all because of you, right? And there's still so much work that needs to be done. We're never going to stop fighting, but it feels so validating. All the organizing, all the effort, all the sacrifice that we put in for this victory, whatever the contribution you gave, like Varshini said, phone banking, having a conversation with your peers, your family members, this victory belongs to you. We paid it in full. Like, this was a battle and it was earned. But we still have some things that we need to do. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about the first 100 days, right? And why it's critical. So yeah, sit back. We're going to get kind of wonky, but it's going to be some good stuff. And we're going to have some great next steps for y'all. So yeah, take a second to get comfy for this story time. So when FDR stepped into the White House, he had a Senate and a House majority in 1933. The country was in the midst of the Great Depression. The previous president had refused to use the government to care for people, and unemployment, houselessness, and starvation were at an all-time high. Climate change and extra activity farming created massive droughts that created, catastrophic winds, the Great Dust Bowl that killed livestock, crops, and people. This was an environmental disaster known as the Dust Bowl. So FDR and the movement pushed him, my cat, pushed him because they know that they needed him to act rapidly in order to give people relief, as well as create the political movement necessary to launch the New Deal and bring the country out of the Depression. So this is all sounding familiar, right? Yeah, if y'all want to put on in the chat, what are some of the parallels you see between FDR's time in that moment and our time now? Yeah, definitely need for change, fear, inequality, economic recession. a lot of parallels, right? Yeah, so a desperate country and the powerful movements that elected FDR pushed him to commit in his first 100 days to any policy that that a stricken notion in the midst of a stricken world must require. During those 100 days, social movements successfully pressured FDR and Congress to pass 15 major bills and sign almost 100 executive orders that changed the landscape of our country and the lives of everyone living here. Programs like the Civilian Conservation Corps were created that brought jobs to 3 million young people to protect and develop natural resources on public-owned land. So since FDR's time, the first 100 days had been recognized as the period that set the bar for a presidential administration. The best time to push presidents to be ambitious and when presidents have the most influence over Congress. Presidents like Kennedy and LBJ were pushed by the powerful Black liberation and labor movement in the 60s to pass unpresidential civil rights and anti-poverty legislation in the first 100 days. That's why Biden's first 100 days are the most important and why now is the time to push him to be bold. And just like FDR's time, Kennedy and LBJ's time, the country is sick, in trouble, and confused all around. We face resurgent white supremacy and a failing democracy and a global pandemic, mass unemployment and houselessness. And the climate crisis is getting worse and worse by the year. We have experienced so much pain and loss these 4 years. Yeah, Trump is trash, and it's been really bad. But we have supported each other through all the pain. We were resilient, and we have built a powerful climate movement that helped secure Biden and the Democrats' victory over Trump. Now, during Biden's first 100 days is the time to make big demands and launch the decade of the Green New Deal. This is our decade, and our movement is ready. In fact, we have already started with a day of action last week, right after Biden got inaugurated. And we're going to play a video of some of these cool actions.
The imaginary white moderates that gave the Democrats the House and the Senate and the executive. It was organizers on the ground every day screaming Black Lives Matter, screaming, we need a meaningful answer to the question. The fact of the matter is, it was not the imaginary white moderates that gave the Democrats the House and the Senate and the executive. It was organizers on the ground every day screaming Black Lives Matter, screaming, we need a meaningful answer to the question.
All across America, we are trying to be your partners. We want to work with you. We want to make the case to Joe Manchin. We want to make the case. Standing Democrat, we have to. With our friendships and our labor, we can organize in America where the natural riches of this land are shared with everyone. We see our power as friends, as neighbors, as workers. America has woken up to our power.
That was a great video. I actually have never seen it. But yeah, it was organizers on the ground that delivered this victory. It was young people, it was people of color out in the streets. Don't let anyone tell you different. We heard a lot of establishment Democrats blaming Black Lives Matter and a lot of other young people for their losses. That wasn't our fault. If anything, we registered more people to vote. We brought more power, and we brought the victory to Joe Biden and the Democrats, especially in Georgia. So they definitely need to step up to the plate, stop making excuses, and not compromise with the Republicans and their coup sympathizing colleagues. Cool. So what are we demanding in the first 100 days? Our first 100 days, our big demands for the Joe Biden administration in the first 100 days is just visionary green recovery. So the green recovery will include monthly $2,000 stimulus checks, which is wildly popular and what we really need during a global pandemic, unemployment insurance, state and local aid, and ban evictions and utilities shut off. All sounds, great. Sounds like common sense. Unfortunately, not a lot of people agree with us. We see that, Congress does not want to pass stimulus. We see they want to give money to bail out corporations like they always have, but we need COVID relief for our communities. So everyone, regardless of immigration status, should have what they need to survive. And we can't move into the decade of the Green New Deal until we stop collective bleeding and we start healing. So we will also, in the Green Recovery, we are fighting for democracy reform, protect and expand the right to vote, end the filibuster, expand the Supreme Court and DC statehood, and advocating for Puerto Rico self-determination. The filibuster, we really need to get rid of that. That is a arcane, old Jim Crow era tool that is stopping us from getting the Green New Deal with all the meat and substance that our communities deserve. We need to eliminate that. And we already see Republicans and people in state legislatures moving to restrict voting in the communities. You would think that they would want democracy, but that's not the case. We must end the minority rule of our government and permanently shift the balance of power in the United States away from the greedy elites and the white supremacist whipped Republicans. It's time we build a true multiracial democracy that we can pass the whole decade of the Green New Deal and the policies that we need in it. And finally, in the Green Recovery, we are fighting to create good jobs, reverse systemic inequality, and halt the climate crisis in the Green Recovery. And that will include climate clock, decarbonizing America, go big on investment, job guarantee, regardless of citizenship or criminal record, empowering workers, a just transition, indigenous sovereignty, climate action as reparations, and so much more. Yeah, let's get hyped for that in the chat. So for so long, it felt that we've been on the defensive against everything. Now it's time to fight for exactly the world we deserve, to be visionaries about what's possible for our communities. So in the chat, right, what will our world look like in 10 years from now at the end of the decade of the Green New Deal? And yeah, I just want to, the last piece is like, yeah, it feels really good, validated the past few days, Joe Biden putting these executive actions in, but there's still a lot of fighting that needs to be done. Joe Biden's not our savior. We got us. We know what our communities need. So we need to be in the community. We need to keep advocating. We need to keep organizing. We are clear-eyed about what we are fighting for in this moment. Yeah, and then I'll pass to Griffin to talk about what our movement's role is in this fight.
Thanks so much, Wally. Let's get some love in the chat going for Wally and for how gracefully he took us through that material. Yeah, hey everyone, my name's Griffin. I use he and pronouns. I'm a trainer within the Sunrise movement. And during my time as a leader in Sunrise, I've seen firsthand how young people coming together from across the country can do the unthinkable and win the impossible. I'm thinking about last summer when my senator, Green New Deal champion Ed Markey, was challenged in the Democratic primary by the dynasty politician Joe Kennedy III. If you're not from around here, you might not know, But until recently, there's been about two things you can count on in Massachusetts. The first is big old snowstorms in the summer, and the second is Kennedy's winning elections. And last summer, this election was looking like it was going to follow in step. I remember seeing the news. Kennedy was up 20 points and a few $1 million. And the organizer in me groaned and my heart sagged. And I saw that if business continued as usual, winning this race was going to be impossible. Victory felt so far out of reach. But I was lucky enough to have some incredible leaders in my community and in my networks. And these leaders told me, no, don't give up. Hope is not lost. We can organize right now. One text, one call, it's where it starts. These middle schoolers and these high schoolers, people my age and younger, fighting to keep Ed's career alive and put forward this vision of the Green New Deal, motivating their friends and peers to keep organizing when hope felt really far away. And it's true, business as usual might have let Kennedy win, but these organizers weren't playing by the same old dusty rule book. I remember the relational organizing drives we did to mobilize our friends and families, and seeing some of the most creative social media and political ads, and in my opinion, some of the greatest political memes of all time. And we're building this campaign out of young people being who we really are, right? Funny and sassy and caring and creative, and not playing by the stuffy roles we're told we have to play in order to get political wins. It was electric. And day by day, the whole summer, we organized and took back the race from Kennedy point by point. In early September, our movement defeated a Kennedy in Massachusetts for the first time ever by 11 points. All of these young people coming together from all over the country and all over the state, organizing straight from our hearts. We did the impossible. Here in this call, drop some exclamation points in the chat right now. If you made calls for Ed Markey, if you sent texts, if you did relational organizing and mobilized your friends and your family, and especially if you made or shared or reposted any of those incredible memes. Yeah. And that is just a sliver of our movement's power, right? Our movement's work in support of Ed Markey is just one piece of a much larger picture. We've worked for the past 4 years to create this mandate for transformational action against climate change in the form of a Green New Deal. And we won that mandate. And now we get to shift from setting a mandate into holding an agenda that leads to actual legislation, which Wally just shared with us. And so our movement's role right now is to popularize the green recovery as the recovery pathway for our country and make it non-negotiable that Congress and President Biden champion and pass major federal legislation in the first 100 days for green infrastructure, green jobs, and long-term economic recovery that's ambitious and rooted in racial and economic justice that can serve as the beginning of the true Green New Deal. And to be clear, our role right now, it's not to get too deep in the weeds of each bill. That's not where we're most powerful. Instead, our role at Sunrise is to continue to build people power and political power to change the common sense of the country and force politicians to move in alignment with that same common sense. In February, just a couple of weeks, we'll be launching a new national campaign to do just that. And this campaign is going to require tireless work in our communities to build this tidal wave, a tidal wave of popular support for the Green New Deal and make that power felt in the halls of Congress, including everything from flooding the voicemails of senators' offices to demonstrating in legislative offices. And at the same time, we got to be growing our people power by talking to more and more of our friends and family about why this moment is so urgent and bring them into the fight by getting them to take action with us. Our movement is winning. We're winning, but there's still a long road ahead. And it's not enough to just win elections, right? If those elected don't actually fight for everyday people, it's not enough to win elections. We got to make sure that they fight, hold them accountable. Sunrise Movement, along with our allies, we're determined to make sure working people and a green economy are at the forefront of President Biden's first 100 days. Let's get some more exclamation points if you're ready to build this vision with us. Me too. Oh, incredible. So this is broadly how we see our role in the fight for a green recovery. But there's so much more that we're excited to share with you in the coming weeks. And so we're still working with hub leaders across the movement to define and refine and strengthen our strategy. And on February 18th, we'll be officially launching our campaign, and we need you there. So I'm passing it over to Lauren to share more about how you can be a part of this fight.
Thanks so much, Griffin. Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren, and I use she, her pronouns, and I work on Sunrise's national trainings team. And I'm here right now to talk about the launch of our movement's next campaign to win a green recovery. So right now, we are in a historic moment of opportunity, the kind that only comes around once every few decades. Because since our movement started 4 years ago, we have been fighting nonstop to win a Green New Deal that can stop the climate crisis and give our generation a livable future. And now we are actually on the verge of winning that. So like Varshini was talking about at the top of this call with all the things that we have won, yeah, we just had some major wins this week. And Biden's executive actions just yesterday have actually started building some key pillars of the Green New Deal into law. So we are already winning. And the Green New Deal isn't a far off dream anymore. It's right at our fingertips. So our mission now is to seize this momentum that has started and keep it going through these first 100 days and all the way until we've won. And so right now, Joe Biden and congressional leaders have promised to pass historic COVID relief and economic recovery legislation and put climate action at the forefront. So they've said that they're intending to do things really in line with the green recovery that we want. And what we need to do now is to rally our generation to hold them accountable to following through on these promises and doing so at a scale that meets the gravity of this crisis. Because time is ticking and people are dying. And we don't have another 4 years to wait for politicians in DC to get their act together. We need them to act now. So on Thursday, February 18th, we will be launching our Green New Deal Year One campaign and announcing our strategy for how we are going to win for green recovery. And so we'll be having a live streamed event that anyone anywhere can tune into. And we really want you all to be there. So here's the link to sign up to host a Green New Deal Year One campaign launch watch party. And I'll tell you a little more about what that looks like. So at the launch party, we're going to be laying out our full strategy for how we can win a green recovery in these first 100 days. And in that strategy, we will have an essential role for you to play. And you'll walk away with a clear set of action steps that you can take to help us seize this moment and make sure that Biden and Congress take the bold action that we need to build a green recovery and stop the twin crises of COVID and the climate crisis. And it's crucial that we start this next phase of our work with support from the whole movement. We need you to be there. So that's why I'm asking you to sign up right now to host a campaign launch watch party. And hosting a watch party is super easy. You can do it with your pod in your house, or you can do it with a group of friends online. All you need to do is think of some friends that you want to invite and reach out to them. And then watch the Green New Deal Year One campaign launch live stream together. And we'll support you to set up the rest. So we'll have agendas for you to follow and folks to coach you through if you have any questions. So no matter who you are, even if you're brand new to Sunrise, in fact, honestly, maybe even especially if you're brand new to Sunrise, we need you to host a campaign launch watch party because our power comes from the people in our movement. And our people power is what's gotten us this far into these wins that we're having right now. And it's only going to be launching this next phase of our work with all the people power that this movement can bring that will be able to win the true green recovery that we need. So please sign up right now. The link is in the chat. And yeah, can you put a plus in the chat if you have signed up or are planning to sign up right now? Wow, yes, so many pluses. I love seeing these speed by. This is so much momentum. Thank you. So if you're a hub leader and wondering how to engage with these launch parties, I want to let you know that we're going to have a quick leaders follow-up call right after this to talk through some ideas of how you can use the watch parties to grow your hub's power and answer any questions that you might have. So if you are a hub leader wanting to come and have a little chat about this, then you can join us on this Zoom that we're going to be dropping in the chat. And yeah, for all of you here, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. This has been an incredible week for our movement. Week 1 of the Biden presidency, and we have already won so much. So I'm really excited to see how much further we can go together, and to see you all in just a couple weeks at our full campaign launch. So I hope you'll be there. I hope you'll bring your friends, and together we can win a green recovery. So thanks so much, everybody.
Water. Life on Earth began with it. Every life on Earth depends on it. But as the world's population grows and its climate changes, water is becoming a more and more precious commodity. Nowhere is this more apparent than in one of the world's most densely populated and vibrant capitals, La Ciudad de Mexico, Mexico City. Abundance is everywhere here. But below these busy streets and magnificent buildings, there's a problem. Mexico City is running out of water. Its growing population demands more food, and industrialized agriculture uses vast amounts of water to meet those demands. The consequence? The water table, a huge marshy lake and river system on which the city is built, is subsiding. And the city is subsiding with it. One man believes he has a solution to these problems. And it comes from a secret discovered by the Aztecs over 1,000 years ago. A secret hiding in plain sight. The Chinampas, the floating gardens of Xochimilco. I'm Marco Rios Bollinger. I've dedicated the last decade of my life to community tourism, a better way to travel that ensures the money we spend reaches the local people we visit. Along the way, I've been truly inspired by ordinary people in often remote corners of our planet doing extraordinary things, solving problems for their communities and creating solutions for some of the world's biggest challenges. I call them hidden heroes.
Esta es una reserva ecológica. Es un pulmón para el Distrito Federal. Libera agua limpia a la Ciudad de México. Si uno desaparece, se colapsa la Ciudad de México.
I've come to meet Ricardo Rodriguez.
Marco, ¿cómo estás? Bienvenido.
A former Mexico City tour guide turned hydrologist biodynamic farmer and eco-advocate.
Pues vamos, adelante.
I'm here to learn about the waterways and the extraordinary chinampas. And my first question to him was, what exactly is a chinampa?
Esto que ustedes ven aquí es el último vestigio que queda de los tiempos prehispánicos. Hace más de 2000 años, la cultura tolteca empezaron a crear las chinampas. Pues hace cuenta que en el lago ponían estacas en cualquier parte, hacían la cama de ramas y sobre de esa cama sacaban el lodo que está en el fondo del canal y empezaban a crear la agricultura sobre agua. Después se dieron cuenta de la alta producción que tenían de alimento. Los aztecas llegaron, descubren el sistema y ellos empiezan a hacer toda una distribución absoluta del producto en toda la capital. Los aztecas eran una de las ciudades más modernas que existía en América Latina. Tenía acueductos, tenía agua limpia, tenía alimento de la mejor calidad. Agricultura sobre agua. Por eso vivían también.
The canal system of Xochimilco has been called the Venice of the Americas. Tourism, though not the complete answer, is still an important component of the economy of Xochimilco, which is why I brought a few friends with a particular interest in organic food produced using indigenous farming practices.
My work here is reactivating the sun because I believe Xochimilco can produce a lot of food for the people who live in Mexico City. Ahorita van a ver una de las primeras chinampas que empecé a visitar. Tan solo un productor en una chinampa de 700 metros cuadrados puede producir 9 toneladas de verdolaga en un mes. Sí, la producción es orgánica, es ecológica, es de manera prehispánica y cosechar libre de pesticidas, de cualquier químico, sino es natural. Lo que la tierra nos da, eso vamos a producir.
To produce the same 9 tons of food, industrial farming requires 200,000 gallons of water pumped in. Ricardo's chinampa needs none, nor does it need fertilizers or pesticides. And the food that chinampa produces, well, you have to try it to believe it.
This is a milpa, this is a more fresh corn. And you need to share it to David. Cuando uno hace turismo, 7 familias están involucradas en el turismo. Todo lo que consumimos el día de hoy es producto local que hacen aquí los productores.
Muy bueno.
Todo lo preparan aquí en Xochimilco. Bueno, lo que vamos a comer el día de hoy van a ser unos tamales y atole. El atole es una bebida típica prehispánica de México que está hecha a base de masa de maíz con leche y chocolate. Es una gastronomía local. La comida se tiene que preparar, la renta de las trajineras, la propina del remero. Todo implica una derrama económica en la zona, porque es única en el mundo. O sea, no existe otro Xochimilco en el mundo, solo existe este.
As wonderful as Ricardo's solution is, there are problems here. Mexico City keeps expanding, but it cannot pave over Xochimilco without cutting off 40% of its desperately needed water supply. What's more, without regular maintenance, these canals will clog up. The city needs the farmers who work these chinampas to keep the canals maintained and flowing.
Existen cerca de 22,000 chinampas y solo se trabaja con el 3%. Porque ¿cómo hacemos que regresen los productores para acá? Pues hay que crear una demanda, Hay que enseñarles que las cosas se pueden hacer, buscar canales de comercialización, pero eficientes, que les traiga dinero al productor, no que les quite. Porque al final de cuentas, la gente cree que este sistema ya no funciona.
Claro.
Pero la realidad es otra, sí funciona. Xochimilco está vivo, tiene que seguir viviendo y tenemos que producir. O sea, si la historia ya nos dijo que fue un éxito, ¿por qué ahora no lo vemos? Digamos que toda nuestra cultura, toda nuestra gastronomía, todo lo que somos nació de acá. Entonces, si esto se pierde, como mexicano pierdo mi cultura. Hey, everybody out there at Live from Earth. We are on for segment 2 with filmmaker Marco Rios Bollinger. It is Thursday, April 20th, and today's theme is youth and activism. And coupled with and integrated with Marco's Hidden Heroes series is an online course. He calls it the Uprise Institute, and it's an online course for people that want to learn how to become their own hero. And you're probably the best person to really discuss what the course is about, but maybe for people who are new to the whole concept of Hidden Heroes, maybe just a quick elevator pitch. You know, what is Hidden Heroes, the series, and what is it in reality?
Thanks, Jacob. Great to be here. Thanks for having me. Hidden Heroes is a dream project of mine. It's a docu-series that transports you to often overlooked places to meet ordinary people doing extraordinary things, you know, lifting up their communities and actively working on solutions to some of humanity's greatest challenges. With so much, you know, division and oftentimes doom and gloom out there in the media, I really wanted to produce something that focused on solutions and inspiration. These local heroes are totally out there, but they often get overlooked and go unnoticed, you know, lost in kind of the marginalized or distant corners of our planet, society. And this is, you know, storytelling is my passion and what I'm good at. And I wanted to lend my hand to, you know, spotlighting some of these epic humans, you know, who I think we can all relate to, right? Because this is about sparking a movement. You know, the world needs all of us. The world needs you out there to find your way in participating in building a better world, right? We have so many challenges coming down the pipeline that we all have to get involved, you know? And the only way to get involved and not feel overwhelmed is to find, you know, community in your effort, right? Because this is something I'm noticing out there when you're just being bombarded with so many things that are going on and wrong in this world, it can feel overwhelming. But when you find your tribe, when you find your community, when you find, you know, what you're passionate about working on, I think you can feel super empowered. So that's kind of the goal of the series, is to spark that connection, that movement, and that inspiration to participate in solutions.
Yeah, I love that. And in that way, you're inspiring the viewers, but you're also inspiring and highlighting just individuals that people maybe would have never even heard of or known about in the first place. And, we hear the term all the time, think global, but act local. And these are the people that are really doing it. And it's people like this all over the world. If we all step up and be that change in our local community, be that local hero, we're going to see some real beautiful transformation on our planet and a lot of healing. So I think maybe we should just hop right to the sizzle reel on the promo piece you did on the Uprise Institute. And I think that'll probably tell a lot about what the program is. And then afterwards, we'll ask a couple questions and go from there.
Sounds good.
Alrighty. Okay. So roll it.
We are adaptable, resilient, communal creatures with intellect and language and compassion. We already have all the tools we need to be amazing humans. We just need a plan that focuses our passion and our purpose into action. I hope that my stories inspire you to get out there, to start building the better world you want to live in. I've made a living over the past 20 years as a photographer, working with legends like Beyonce, Barack Obama, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I've been a creative director, a documentary filmmaker, and the founder of a sustainable travel company called Local. In this course, we'll break down how small actions can lead to big change. And we'll begin with the critical step that a lot of us skip: understanding yourself. What drives you? The world can feel like a mess right now. The emotional state that many are experiencing has been dubbed crisis fatigue. Yep, that's a thing. Basically, when we feel this overwhelmed, our natural response is to retreat to safety and turn the noise off altogether. But disengagement cannot be the answer. There's just too much at stake. It was 2014, and the Syrian refugee crisis was consuming me, but I felt powerless to do anything about it. I found my motivation many months later in a New York Times article. They boiled down 10 million displaced people to snapshots from a satellite. The thing is, you couldn't get much further from the human toll of war than photos from space. I suddenly realized what I had to offer. I'm good at telling intimate human stories because I make people feel seen and I earn their trust. I could spend time with the people I met and let them all tell me the story they wanted to know. That's my why. That's why I should go do this no matter how scary it might be. I grew up between two cultures, my mom's Peruvian side and my dad's American side. And I learned as a young man how much I love to immerse myself in new cultures. We're gonna take virtual field trips across the world to meet incredible local leaders to see how these themes are applied across any circumstance or culture. I'm also gonna walk you through case studies of some of the key moments in my life that helped shape my path. Your passion is essential, but you also need a tangible action plan to change the world around you. This course will give you the tools and inspiration you need to build your personal plan and turn your passion into action. My name is Marco Rios Bollinger, and this is how you can build a better world. Let's get started.
Wow, what a cool thing. And you don't, it's not too often that you actually see a film series that's partnered with an online course. And what a great idea. And, and I think we're in a post-COVID world. And, during that period when there was lockdowns and everything like that, there's a lot of people who really innovated for what can be done online. Yeah. And, an online course it's almost like virtual travel to, to go on the journey with you and to have the experiences with you and learn the lessons with you. And I think, it'd be really amazing to see schools adopt this and people everywhere. I think like in our local community, you have older retired people that are docents at the library or, volunteering different places. And I think just as easily, you could have docents that, older people learning these skills to even be better in their own community. So I love what you're doing here. And I know that you have numerous ways that our viewers can go deeper. So tell us a little bit about, what some of the ideas you have behind how to further this work and deepen the connections with your viewers and these people on the ground that have these solutions.
Yeah, I mean, that was the idea of this course, right? Is to give everybody the tools they need to participate, whatever that looks like. It took me a long time to learn how to really turn my passions into these actions. And I had a lot of support, and I learned a lot about myself through travel and exploring the rest of the world and understanding how much I value, other cultures and how that reflects back to me, my own worth. So I wanted to provide, an easy way for the world, not just to learn the skills, but also learn from these local leaders in other places, Nepal, Mexico, Costa Rica, refugee camp.
It's like a virtual trip.
It is.
You don't even have to get a passport. You just hop on the course with Marco and travel the world.
Well, so I've spent the last more than a decade working on, impact projects, and especially in the community tourism space. And I founded a company called Local Travel, local with a K, that allows you to book community tourism around the world with local communities. This is really culturally immersive and, educational type travel that also has this wonderful, adventure component, right? Cultural adventure, eco adventure, getting to really get under the skin of these places. And, I started to realize though that, when it came, especially to youth, right? But, potentially anyone, you needed money to be able to access these kinds of experiences, right? It was more and more, we were finding that, wealthy parents were some of our biggest customers. They really were looking for ways to expose their kids to these types of experiences where the, kids could learn about themselves, could learn about the world. And I started feeling a little uncomfortable about the fact that, I had built this amazing thing, but it had this real steep economic barrier to entry. And so I realized I wanted to, try and figure out a more, accessible way for people to learn this, right? And I started wondering whether the technology was finally there, and I could, easily do this. And I think it turns out that it is, right? I think in the future we'll be adding, virtual reality experiences to this course and others like it. But for now, this was a way where we could kind of gift this to the world as a really easy way for you to, when you finish the course, you've created an action plan for what you want to do. I mean, it starts with your passions and understanding yourself, your strengths and weaknesses, what kind of teammates you might need, moves through, finding your North Star. That's my term or whatnot, of like
finding your purpose.
Someone out there, right, doing what you want to do, that you can kind of follow their path or learn from their path, all the way through, identifying advisors and mentors that could help you, really understand how to do this, and identifying your first couple steps, right, in this action plan. So I wanted it to be, something super active, because I know for myself, when I'm working on stuff,
it's so much more inspiring when you have tangible results. You know?
It's amazing. Well, and I think, there's classroom learning, but there's also, project-based learning and immersive learning and travel learning. And, and so it feels like you're kind of covering the gamut. You have a travel program that's connected with the Hidden Heroes series, but you also have an online course for people that can't travel. And I know you offer scholarships for the course as well. And I think that's available all week or for a little while coming.
Yeah. That's available all this week through Earth Day. So
Super.
sign up now, register now. You can do the course at your own pace whenever you want, but we've made the scholarships available. And if there's any teachers out there, we're offering some classroom scholarships as well. So sign up. There's a way to send a question in on the platform. This is the week to get involved. Sign up now, get involved.
I love it. And, tourism can be destructive or it can be constructive depending on how you do it when you're actually traveling. And when you have local communities that are benefiting from the dollar that is brought in by tourists, then it's very constructive. It's a very positive thing. But when you have, a big resort and all of those local people working for pennies per hour, being maids in the resort, that's kind of extractive on those communities. And so I think your online course really exemplifies and shows that, if you do want to get out there and travel, there's a right way to do it. There's a good way to do it. And so thanks again. This was our second amazing interview with Marco Rios Bollinger of Hidden Heroes. You can learn more about Hidden Heroes at hiddenheroes.tv, and definitely sign up for the email list so that we can stay in touch with you and you can be up on everything that is unfolding in the Hidden Heroes world. And our next segment with Marco is going to be in 2 days on Saturday, April 22nd, for the finale of Live from Earth with special guest Ziggy Marley, String Cheese Incident, and these other notable artists. And Marco is going to do a little bit of a deep dive on Hidden Heroes and the background. And so you continue to learn more about the many layered universe that Marco is weaving. So
we're gonna premiere some behind the scenes content of the eco adventure I took actor and influencer Holland Roden on. So should be fun. It was a wild experience. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's so cool. And that is another discussion that we could really open up into, but we will be exploring in more depth next month at the Lightning in a Bottle Festival. We're doing a panel about impact and film and working with influencers and social media to amplify that impact. So there is so much cooking up in the Hidden Heroes universe. It's a lot more than a film series. It's a movement. It's a fully integrated ecosystem of movers and shakers and heroes that are making real difference in the world. So thanks for stepping up yourself, Marco, and thanks for another great segment on Hidden Heroes during Live from Earth. And we'll see you again Saturday.
Yep. We need you guys. Sign up,
Yeah.
If without you, this project will fail. With you, we can literally start a movement. So make sure you go and connect with us and get involved.
Awesome. Yay.
Joining me today to talk about creating transformation in the field of wildlife conservation is the CEO of Conservation Nation, Lynn Mento. Conservation Nation launched in the fall of 2021 with a mission devoted to supporting and amplifying underrepresented voices in the conservation field, including women, people of color, Indigenous people, and those from disadvantaged communities. Their goal is to lift long-standing barriers to accelerate the growth of a strong community of wildlife champions and future leaders, solving biodiversity challenges together. Check out this introduction to their important work.
Historically, it has taken privilege to explore nature and to become a conservationist. Access to education and training and unpaid internships are barriers to entry, creating a cycle where future diverse conservationists don't see themselves in these careers. At Conservation Nation, our mission is to preserve the planet by creating a diverse and inclusive wildlife conservation movement. Here are some of our end-of-the-year highlights. The Conservation Nation Grant Program offers funding to help save animals and their ecosystems by building a stronger, more diverse wildlife conservation community. We are looking forward to seeing all the projects from our next cohort of grantees in the new year. Conservation Nation focuses on role models and how they can influence youth and their futures by connecting them to people working in the field. Inclusion is the only path to growth and success in conservation. Now more than ever, we need every brilliant voice, perspective, and solution at the table to save the delicate web of biodiversity that keeps us all alive and thriving. To learn more about how you can help, visit conservationnation.org.
So inspiring. Thank you, Lynn, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Kelly. I'm thrilled to be here at Live from Earth. This event gives me such hope for the future. It's just full of amazing people doing terrific things, so I'm honored to be part of it.
And you are one of those people. Tell us more about the work of Conservation Nation.
So we are passionate at Conservation Nation about preserving the planet and the inclusive movement that we know is essential in order to do that. We need every smart voice, solution, perspective, lived experience at the table. And as you saw in that video, unfortunately, there have been long-standing barriers for decades that have kept people out of the field of conservation. And so our mission is to lift those barriers and create a strong, inclusive, diverse, representative community of conservationists and wildlife champions.
So how exactly do you propose to do that?
We do it two ways. We've created this unique program that merges these two things. So the first is providing support to conservationists from these traditionally underrepresented communities. And then the second is by inspiring the next generation of conservationists who are diverse, inclusive, and representative to see themselves as wildlife champions, all the way up to pursuing a STEM academic and career path into conservation. On that work, we have two programs on the education side, one here in the US, which we call the Conservation Nation Academy, and it's designed to inspire middle schoolers to see themselves rightfully and confidently as wildlife champions. And we do this primarily by using role model conservationists who help these kids see conservationists who look like them, have walked past like them, so we can break the "if you can't see it, you can't be it" challenge. And then also by providing them with opportunities to be in nature, so their confidence grows, their sense of belonging grows. It's a terrific little program, and you can hear more about it now from one of our students at the fabulous Washington School for Girls, Catherine.
I'm Aziza, and what I like about Conservation Nation is that the teachers are interactive with you. What I liked about meeting Taylor was that she let us touch the wolf fur. It was actually fun. It was scary at first, but then it got fun.
That's so great. This makes me so hopeful for the future. Did you say there was another education program?
There is. We're doing work with the Girls Foundation of Tanzania, which is a terrific organization in Tanzania that's dedicated to supporting education for girls from the impoverished communities in Tanzania and providing them with safe spaces for school breaks. And we're partnering with the Girls Foundation of Tanzania to inspire these girls to see themselves as wildlife champions and become ambassadors within their own communities. So we're doing things like taking the girls out to field trips to wildlife conservation organizations that we're working with in Tanzania so that they get hands-on experience. And then we are partnering with them to create wildlife clubs that these girls can take out to schools in Tanzania. And the girls become the wildlife champion ambassadors at these school club programs. You can hear now from the woman who runs the Girls Foundation of Tanzania, Esther Happy.
I am Esther Happy, Director of the Girls Foundation of Tanzania. I'm very excited because we are partnering with Conservation Nation, and we've been doing a lot of education to the girls, teaching them how to conserve environment, to avoid all the destruction that can ruin our environment. And our girls, we have some of them here, you guys can wave. Hi! They learn how to conserve environment, and we are looking back for them to go back and educate their community. Nasila can share a little bit about that.
I'm Nasila. I come from the community of Maasai, and I'm very proud and happy to be selected to be at the Girls Center since I get the best education on how to conserve the environment. Since when I go back to my community, I educate them on the effects of cutting down trees, overgrazing. So I educate them on how to reduce the number of cattle and also to plant trees that they can beneficial later in their life. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, that's incredible. And your other focus is on providing support to conservationists work around the world?
Yeah, when we realized how incredibly difficult it was for people who were not born into a family of privilege or one with connections to become part of this fight to save biodiversity and the planet, we knew our mission was going to be single-mindedly focused on lifting these barriers to allow them in. And so we created what we call a scaffolding program around these conservationists to support them, both get them into the field and then support them so they can thrive when they're in it. So the scaffolding program is designed for conservationists from traditionally underrepresented communities, and it has 3 pieces. We provide them with funding to support their wildlife saving work today. We provide them with professional development so that they can grow and thrive in their field. So it's things like sessions on how to tell your story or how to raise grant funding. And then the third way is providing them with mentoring and connections so that they get an equitable leg up and are able to both enter and then stay in the field of conservation. And, you know, we were so proud when we were able to fund a full-time paying job for our first fellow, Taylor Raby, thanks to the generosity of Conservation Nation donors. So Taylor had been volunteering at the Yellowstone Wolf Project, and through our donors, we were able to fund a full-time paying job for her. So now she doesn't have to worry about a second job to pay the bills. She can focus full-time on wolf conservation and research. And we've got a little clip from Taylor here.
Hi, Lynn. Thanks so much for having me here. I'm so excited to be a part of this conversation. It's been so inspiring seeing some of the paths that everyone has taken to get involved with conservation and follow along with the work that they're doing. And so I would like to describe the path that I took in order to be involved with conservation and the work that I'm continuing to do. I grew up in a small town in northeastern Ohio, and I had always been super fascinated by wildlife growing up. I decided to pursue a bachelor's degree from The Ohio State University in zoology to kind of pave my way through some type of work in the conservation field. During my undergrad, I was very fortunate enough to travel all over the world. I got to study abroad in South Africa and really learn about the conservation work that they're doing there, which is what inspired me to want to keep going. I ended up moving to Yellowstone National Park, where my husband, Jack, is a PhD student with the Yellowstone Wolf Project, and I knew that I wanted to be involved with the research in some capacity. Yellowstone Wolf Project is funded by Yellowstone Forever, a nonprofit, so everything is through private donations, and I knew that I wouldn't be able to get hired on due to a lack of funding. So as I was in Yellowstone, I was working full-time as a wildlife guide, and simultaneously volunteering for the Yellowstone Wolf Project 40 hours a week for free. And I did that for about 2.5 years. Whenever you want to be involved in the wildlife field and you want to kind of make your way, it's not necessarily about what you know, but it's about who you know. So you need to make a lot of connections out here, and often that means volunteering and working super low, underpaid jobs in order just to get your foot in the door. So I was very, very fortunate enough to be connected with Conservation Nation, who was able to provide support and funding for an entire year to pay me to work full-time for the Yellowstone Wolf Project. They brought me on as the first inaugural fellow, and I've been so fortunate to be able to work with Lynn and the other Conservation Nation team members who have really changed my life and help get me involved in the work that I'm doing. With the Yellowstone Wolf Project, I do a lot of major research and education on gray wolves. Wolves are extremely controversial out west, and so it's really important for me to be able to help people understand why they're important to the ecosystem and how they're beneficial on the landscape. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so honored to be Conservation Nation's first fellow, and I hope more people can be supported by this incredible organization and get to continue to do work like me.
Wow, I'm learning a lot just from hearing from all of these people. This is amazing.
Yeah, they're really phenomenal. So we are so proud to be supporting them. And, you know, we have a second fellow as well, a woman named Yamat Langai. So thanks to the generous support, partnership, and funding of a terrific conservation organization called Catmosphere, focused on big cat conservation, we were able to fund a second fellow. And Yamat is a Tanzanian mother of two, Maasai woman, who is working at a wonderful conservation organization called African People and Wildlife. And Yamat is working to save threatened lions by reducing human-lion conflict in the communities. And she does that primarily through data, measurement, and tracking. So Yamat is not only doing a terrific work in conservation, she's also breaking barriers for Maasai women that they can be in the field of conservation, and these myths that they can't be working with complex technology. She is busting those up. And you can hear from Yamat in this little video.
Thank you for inviting me to speak today. I'm so glad to be able to do this work. Thank you to the support of Conservation Nation. It's a great honor to be a Conservation Nation Fellow, which helped me to navigate the relationship between my people and the big cats in our region, northern Tanzania, where we are working toward peacefully coexistence. I manage several wildlife tracking and GIS software programs to help my organization manage its database. One especially exciting development has been the recovery of Tarangire lion population. This fellowship helped me to develop my skills I need to grow my work in conservation. I initially fell into this work by happenstance simply because it was what was needed in my community. But now I'm so excited to deepen my commitments and help train others.
That is so great. What will it take to expand the academy to schools?
Yeah, so like all things, it takes money. So we are looking to expand the Conservation Nation Academy across the nation. There are underserved children everywhere who deserve to feel like they belong in nature and deserve to feel like wildlife champions. So right now we're doing a pilot in DC. This will be our second year. We're measuring results. And then if we get the funding, we're planning on rolling that out. So it takes funding to get the supplies, to train the teachers, to fund the field trips.
Yeah.
But it's critical to create this next inclusive generation of conservationists who will be leading us into the future. And at the same time, we are looking to raise more money for these amazing grants and fellows for people who are out there fighting every day to break barriers, save threatened animals, stitch up this delicate web of biodiversity for our children and children to come. So there's a long list, a waiting list of these incredible conservationists from underrepresented communities that we want to help support. And they want to be out there and saving the world for all of us. So we're looking for funding for that as well.
Will it be like an infusion program that sort of connects to academic standards in different districts, different demographics?
Yes.
Like it will be part of like earth science, and you could infuse the whole thing into the greater teaching of the school system that already exists. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yes.
That is going to be transformative, I think, for the public school system. Like it needs that. That's what's missing. I think that's really what's lacking.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this is the best thing I've ever heard. I'm generally so excited. So how can our viewers get involved?
They can go to conservationnation.org and check out what we're doing. And if they feel so inclined, they can donate. We need the funding both to get this next inclusive generation up and off the ground and to fund these incredible people doing work today to save the web of biodiversity. So they can go in, they can look around, they can choose to donate, choose to become friends, follow us on social media. All of that is hugely helpful and powerful for us.
That's wonderful. This is going to be so good for children, students, the planet, and wildlife alike all at once. So perfect.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, wonderful to meet you.
Oh, it was fabulous meeting you, and it's thrilling to be here at Live from Earth. So thank you for the opportunity.
Everybody, make sure you go and check out Conservation Nation and get involved. This is important, transformative work for communities, children, animals, the planet, everything. This is what we need more of in this world. Thank you.
Thank you.
I like playing outside, so you're not playing inside in a dark room on electronics with maybe the lights on, cutting down trees to put wires in, and it's just a funner way to live your life playing outside than being stuck inside with playing on electronics and not meeting anyone. I work alongside Funky Kids Radio and CPRE, trying to encourage the message to actually plant and help the environment. I work with Litter Free Dorset, as well as trying to get the message for people. I'm trying to get eco into the curriculum right now, so people can learn eco in school, so you don't really have a choice, but you can also have an eco club if you want to learn more, and then you can bring it on to your peers. I think it's very important because not only that, you can be a lot calmer when you're working, you can also learn more than being stuck inside watching tapes of animals dying, because that has a massive impact on emotions. But I think it's a lot calmer that you're just outside in a spacious area where you can just learn gradually and peacefully.
Another big project that we've done here at Davis First School is about the oceans and about marine life, and particularly about single-use plastic. And the children got their passion and they really wanted to do something within our school. So they worked with the businesses that deliver our fruit and our milk, and they helped them to remove the plastic. And then they made our school pretty much 95% single-use plastic free. And we're nearly there. We're working on some glue sticks at the moment to make them refillable. But then the children then wanted to take that out into the community, and Plastic Free Dorchester was born, and the children went door to door of the businesses, asking them, persuading them more like, to remove free single-use plastics or find alternatives for those items. They also managed to get 50 businesses to sign up to Refill, where you take your reusable water bottle into the business and you use their free drinking water to refill their bottle rather than buying a plastic bottle. We did Wax Tastic No Plastic, where children made alternative to cling film out of cotton dipped in beeswax, and they sold the beeswax wraps for £5, and the children made over £5,000, which went into paying for our nature area with pond, which you saw earlier, which again is amazing. Children raising money for something that they feel really passionate about, and that money going back into this work. So that is that's great to see. Behind me you'll see our ridden food waste composter and the containers. So all our food waste is composted on site. None of it leaves our school grounds, and it goes into this machine behind me, which gets up to 70 degrees heat from start to finish. It takes about 2 weeks to go through, and then it goes into our containers here, and they stay in these containers for 8 to 12 weeks, and then making lovely rich compost for our school gardens. And we make so much that we are able to sell it to the Poundbury community for a donation, and then that money then goes back into our gardens and our eco projects, which is fantastic. If we come over here, I can show you some of the compost that we make from our composter, and as you can see, it makes lovely rich compost that goes onto our school gardens.
TCI really gives youth the opportunity to take on a leadership role.
I was ecstatic to have the opportunity to get more involved in the climate world.
Hi, this is Nalarifi, and I'm super excited about renewable energy.
Wave energy is kind of new to the field of renewable energy.
TCI ambassadors are really trying to increase awareness on climate change issues. They have the chance to bring their ideas for their local areas where they live, and then get the support and resources they need to turn them into reality. TCI's goal is to reach 10 million youth by 2025. Hope is a driving factor for me. If I was not hopeful, then I wouldn't be motivated to do the work that I'm doing. A lot of communities impacted by climate change are members of the BIPOC community. Our priority is to help empower those youth to bring their perspectives to the table. By becoming a TCI ambassador, you would have the resources and support of the organization to figure out your how and get the connections you need in your community. My piece of advice for youth would be to not wait. You should definitely join TCI.